Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I am so excited to have Dale Ecuyer with us today. Dale is a mental wellness advocate. And Dale and I have done some work in the past, and you may have seen us on various different podcasts, but her whole goal is to find holistic solutions to bring health and harmony into the home. And how many of us are really looking for that health and harmony in the home? And so just want to ask you a question, does your child struggle with, let's say, lack of focus, or struggle sleeping, or maybe depression and anxiety, or maybe even aggressive behaviors? And have you ever thought that, you know what, I know medication may be an option, but it's something that I really don't necessarily want to do? Then you are just going to love what we're going to be discussing today, because I have been following Dale for quite some time. And even with discussions that I've had with her personally and some of the testimonies that she has shared with me, we are going to be discussing how nutrition and what we feed our bodies, ourselves and our kids, can really affect what I've learned so much about the gut-brain axis, right? I mean, this is something totally new to me that I had not really been aware of until, Dale, I had met you. So those of you who don't know me, I'm Karen Wagnon. I'm a human behavior specialist and parent coach, and you get both of us today to help you to better understand not only your kids' behaviors, because I'm always looking at the personality traits and how we can adapt our parenting, but Dale's going to bring a whole new perspective so that we can find balance. And as she says, bringing that health and harmony into the home. Dale, when we first started talking about the gut-brain axis, you were talking to me about how nutrition is absorbed in our gut and how that really does affect the neurotransmitters in our brains. And it's something that I was not truly aware of until you really helped to explain that to me. So can you share a little bit more about the power of that and how our body truly has the ability to heal itself if we just provide what it needs?
Absolutely. This is what I love to talk about. I could talk about it all day long. So thank you, Karen, for having me. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to bring this information to light, because I don't think that the majority of people really understand.
Yeah.
And knowledge is power, I always say, right? So
Yep.
We cannot separate the body and the mind. If we're talking about children, like this kid is misbehaving, we can't just separate. Has this child, does he have a tummy ache? Does he have a headache? Has he slept? Has he eaten? Is he hungry? Is he thirsty? You cannot separate that physiological piece. So when you talk about, the gut being connected to the brain, we now know, science has proven, that the gut is actually the second brain. The gut will send the neurotransmitters to the brain if the gut is in balance. So we know that stress affects the gut. Poor food, not good diet. Sugar is a big one, which we're going to go into big time. But let me just explain why. Because 90% of the serotonin, which is our feel-good neurotransmitter, is created in the gut. 75% of dopamine, which is our motivation neurotransmitter, that's created in the gut. GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that helps us to stay calm. And the big one is norepinephrine. That transmitter is important for focus and for being able to focus, which is why we see such an incredible change in children when they get the gut back in balance. I had a child who recently went from getting D's and F's, A's and B's in a 3-week span.
Wow.
It's crazy. I mean, the parents are blown away, because it's like something you would never think of. How is that possible?
No.
Kids don't misbehave because they're bad kids. They misbehave because something's not right, and they can't necessarily articulate what's going on.
Right.
They can't say, oh, I have a headache, or I have it. Sometimes they can say I have a tummy ache, but sometimes not. They don't necessarily get it. The children we see, it's just amazing, the changes that we see.
This is just so interesting because, I was unaware that the serotonin, dopamine, that all of that came out of here. I was not aware of that. So what throws this balance off? Because if that's where it comes from, and then the balance is off, and then of course now our transmission to the brain is now off, what throws that off?
Okay, so the number one thing that throws it off is stress, believe it or not.
Okay.
Stress creates such, and you know that too, when stressed, your stomach hurts, you
Yep.
can't eat, or
Yep.
maybe you stress eat, where you start eating the really bad foods, which cause even more dysbiosis in the gut. Medications also will cause it. Like if you're taking antibiotics, that just completely rips
Mm.
out all, like destroys all the good bacteria in the gut. Toxins that we're exposed to, any kind of artificial colors, flavors, all those kinds of things are going to create a dysbiosis in the gut. It's not what we're meant to be consuming. If the child gets constipated a lot, doesn't have a lot of fiber, if someone's not drinking any water, the gut is out of whack. So there's just many, many factors. If you have a very like acidic diet where all you eat is like meat, meat and sugar and cheese, and you don't have any like greens and nutrient like fruits and vegetables and fiber, well, that's going to create a real imbalance in the gut. I think everyone walking the planet to some degree can say, yeah, I have, we're exposed to toxins every day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where our bodies are overloaded with toxins. You have, people will say, well, our bodies can, cleanse toxins. Yes, this is true, but not when it's overloaded. It's like the lint basket in a dryer. It'll get rid of the lint, but if there's too much lint, it kind of stops working. And that's kind of like our bodies right now are really in toxic overload.
Great analogy. That's a great analogy with the lint. We still need to clean the lint bin out, so or it just gets backed up. This is just so interesting. Stress being number one.
Yeah.
And we right now with what we're going through in our culture, living through a pandemic, we're coming up upon a year of this. We're all dealing with the stress, and our kids are dealing with the stress. Although they can probably not communicate their stress, we are seeing it in behaviors. And you know that I'm always saying there's always a root to behavior. And then we tend to want to discipline the behavior, but if we don't get to the root, the behavior continues. I look at it from understanding the emotional needs and connecting with the relationship. But this also pertains to what you're saying. The root of what's going on in the gut has a lot to do with it as well. I mean, it really is part of that holistic wellness approach to the balance of the relationships and nutrition. So give me some suggestions or recommendations, or let's even talk about some danger zones, because sometimes as parents, we rely on some convenience things because we think it's easy. But that sometimes can be the danger zone and the crutch, and that we're feeding the problem. So what are some of the things that you find that, as our Western culture is, that are our go-tos that tend to make the problem worse as compared to make it better?
Well, I mean, if anyone's dealing with like children that have ADHD or autism, most parents will have the awareness that, what their child eat makes a big difference. And some of those kids are especially very sensitive to things. We know that food makes a big difference. So if you are feeding most people a lot of sugar, so this is like a sugar thing. And if I can catch any parents that have young children, if you can keep sugar away from them at a young age, they're not going to want it pretty much if they get older. They're not going to. So what happens is sugar feeds cravings. So what it does is it makes a complete imbalance in the gut. It causes overgrowth of yeast, overgrowth of bad bacteria. And when you have that overgrowth, the body says, give me more, because I want to make sure that this overgrowth of yeast has something to live on so it can continue to grow. So that's what the cravings come in, right? So the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you want. And that's a physiological thing. No question about it. So if we are feeding kids a ton of sugar, and that becomes like, that's all they want to eat, right? Because that's their body saying, give me more sugar, give me more, give me more. And so you notice a lot, like when kids have had like antibiotic, like a dose of antibiotics, you'll notice they're going to want that sugary stuff. And some pediatricians will say, make sure you give your kids some probiotics after they have this which is really, really important. And I don't know that a lot of parents do it. And it literally takes months to restore. Once you've had an antibiotic, it can take up to 6 months to really restore all that gut bacteria, because it just wipes everything out. It wipes out the good and the bad bacteria.
Right.
So it's really, really important. So, as long as you can, keep sugar away from your kid as long as you can. If you have a child that's already sugar addicted, which a lot of kids are, what you do is start cutting back on the sugar.
Right.
So, for example, just a short little thing. If you're giving your child yogurt, and I think a lot of parents will go for the yogurt, right? Cut it in half with plain yogurt. So you're cutting the sugar. Because if you look, what the dose for the day should be 25 grams of sugar a day. So
wow.
if you start reading labels, you're going to be blown away, because one thing of yogurt, I think it's around 18 to 24 grams of sugar in that. So, cut that in half, start doing it gradually. And the same thing with juice. If you're feeding your child juice, look at the sugar content.
Right.
And if you have a kid, a lot of kids are drinking a lot of juice.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like the worst.
Right.
Really. I mean, they should be drinking water.
Yep.
Water for many, many things, many processes in the body. If your child is getting a lot of headaches, if your child is constipated, I can pretty much assure you that they're not getting enough water. It's as simple as that.
Yes.
It really, really is. So it's a matter of really getting, and I think if kids resist, it's a good time for a learning experience. Like, let's look at this together, depending on the age of the child.
Sure.
If you're a young child, obviously you can't explain like the physiology and of all that. But as children get into their, 4, 5, 6 years old, like, let's get them involved in cooking healthy things. Let's get them involved in knowing what foods are healthy and what foods are maybe we need to limit. We used to do, like, Sunday, we would have dessert. So one day a week, and it was really special.
Right.
And they enjoyed it, but it wasn't like they needed to have sugar every single day. I mean, even crackers have sugar. I mean, everything's ketchup. Oh my gosh. Ketchup is loaded with sugar. So just start being aware of sugar. Start reading labels. That's really, really important. I mean, I think that's like the most important thing that we can do for our kids is really, I was raised on sugar. Like, my mother was sugar. We went to the candy store. We had like 2 candy stores on the way to school. I had cavities every year. I had like 10 cavities. Like, it was bad. And you go into your adult life having sugar cravings and sugar addiction, you're looking at, a lot of inflammation in the body. Disease thrives. Disease thrives in an acidic environment, which is what sugar lives in an acidic environment. So do it for yourself, do it for your kids, be the model for your child about let's get a hold of our health so that we have better energy, so that we can sleep better, so we have a better mood. Because if you don't feel good, if you're not sleeping well, you are not going to bring your best parenting to the table. No question. And the
kids aren't going to be at their best either, so it's kind of that slippery slope. And this is just so interesting how sugar and it can really mess it up. And then when it messes it up, then the serotonin and dopamine, none of that is transmitting properly. And then that's leading to the depression, the anxiety, some of the lack of focus, all because of what we're feeding. And let me just share a quick testimony myself. When I've done detoxes before where I've cleansed myself from sugar and dairy and that type of stuff, I know the sugar craving you're talking about because I'd have killed somebody for a cookie. I mean, literally. I mean, that's how angry I would get that it's just one cookie. You're a freaking adult. Go get the cookie. I mean, but I knew that's how it was controlling me, that I wanted that sugar. That I wanted that sugar. Like, I was getting mad that I was telling myself I can't have the sugar. Like, I was going to be committed to this detox, but I know what it did to me. And I'm a rational human being. I'd like to think I'm a rational human being most of the time, but our kids are not rational with that. They can just be angry and violent, and just the change of the sugar to get maximum peak performance. I mean, we all want our best for our kids. We all say we want our best for our kids, but then we're succumbing to society and giving these things. I mean, ketchup for some kids is not a condiment. It's a side dish. You know what I mean? I mean, you are squirting that big old blob of ketchup on that. And I know because I've seen parents do it. And you're right. Are we even realizing 25 grams, parents, 25 grams a day. Read those labels. And I love some of your suggestions of cutting the yogurt and anything I know with fruit on the bottom yogurt, and the kids' yogurts are very high. But just the fact that cut it with plain, that they're getting a little bit of sweet, but not enough, that's really going to damage and get the balance back in shape. This is just so interesting. So amazing. So Dale, tell us a little bit more about what you can do to help parents to help themselves and their families to get that gut-brain axis back in harmony.
Yeah. So we have, so many pediatricians and marriage therapists and integrative nutritionists and functional medicine docs all on board because the protocol that we have has been clinically proven to work. It's very simple. So therefore it's compliant. People are compliant. Like it's hard for people if they go and they want to get their gut back in balance and they go to, integrative nutritionists or whatever, and they give you like a handful of pills and they tell you, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, none of this, none of that. And it becomes like maybe you'll do it for a month. But if you don't continue, this is a process. This could be a year-long process depending on where your gut is at. So the system that we have, which is why a lot of the docs like it, is because it's very simple. It's 3 parts. It's 1 scoop that you can put in a shake or a yogurt, and then there's 4 pills. One is the focus, which helps with mental clarity, and then the other one is for the connection between the gut and the brain. And then for kids, we actually have the same protocol for kids, and it's all in powder. So the kids just take it, you can put it in whatever you got to do. I even tell parents, you have to put it in pudding, whatever you got to do. But some parents they'll even put it in like juice, or there's like 50 different ways that parents have tried, get this stuff in. But sometimes kids are resistant to stuff, but get it in them. And once you do, you'll see tremendous. Wow. Because what we're doing is basically repopulating the microbiome with targeted probiotics. It's not just go into the shelf and pick out a probiotic. These are targeted to increase that dopamine, increase the serotonin, get your body digesting, getting those neurotransmitters going. And we're just seeing just amazing results. And you can see the stories in the group, the Mental Wellness Warriors, and it's just amazing. And again, it starts with you. And that's what happens, like with a lot of the parents. Like I had a parent who was like, yeah, I need to get this for my son. And when she looked at it, she was like, you know what? I need this for me too.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. And the story that I just shared today on my personal profile of, the dad who was just like miserable, just snapping at his kids. And now they're all on board, and you have to hear it from the horse's mouth. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, our relationships are so different. He's like, my 11-year-old and 14-year-old, they used to like snap at each other like normal in a car, like if you're in a car ride or whatever. But now they're just like content. They're happy. You know what I mean? There's harmony. That's my favorite word. Like there's harmony in the home. And you can't deny that there's a physiological component. That's what I think, and what you do is so important. You get the skills to understand what your needs are, to understand your own needs, but you can't neglect that physiological piece. If we don't feel good, we're not at our best.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dale, this has been amazing. And I'm sure parents are going to just really grasp another option, because so many times, I talk to parents and either they already are dealing with ADD or ADHD or even levels of mild autism in behaviors. And I truly feel that there can be a holistic way to try this first. Try this first before you have to go to a way of medication in which you are introducing other chemicals to your body. And I'm not saying ADD, ADHD are not real. They are. But I think that for so many parents that struggle with wanting to have to either accept that or go that route, try this first. I mean, what do you have to lose? You know what I mean? It really is scientifically based, that if we can get this straight, then the other things will start to line up. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. And how can people get in touch with you if they want more information or talk to you about their situation and get some suggestions on how to bring that health and harmony back to their home?
Yeah, so I would say message me on Facebook. And I would love to invite you in to see the stories, because stories are really, I mean, you can look at the science, but until you put it in your body, you're not going to know. And then when you see the stories of parents that there was a mom, when especially her son was 6 years old, he was kicked out of kindergarten. I mean, for his behavior. And they were going out of their minds. Like, he was in occupational therapy. They were doing all the crazy diets and all that. It was really hard, especially for little ones, to get them to eat vegetables and not eat this and that. It was crazy. But she got on the protocol, and the school was like, your kid doesn't need an IEP anymore. I'm just like,
wow.
it just warms my heart.
It's like a brand new day for that family. A brand new day, right?
Yeah. Whole new life for that child, because once you go on the medication route, there are so many side effects.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's a roller coaster ride.
Right.
And it's not getting to the core. It's not fixing anything.
It's not fixing anything. It's masking. It's the Band-Aid. I call it the Band-Aid. For a lot of situations, it's a Band-Aid. If you truly have a chemical imbalance and that can help, that's fine. But I say start here first. Work with a holistic approach and give it some time to work. And Dale, I've seen some of the testimonies. They are amazing. They inspire me. And when we finish this video, we are going to post the links that people can get in touch with, join your group, and see some of these testimonies and connect with you so that they can find a better approach to be able to manage their kids' behaviors with the concerns that they have. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today. Any final words before we sign off?
Yeah, like you said, just try it.
Yeah.
Try the approach first. You have nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose. All right. Well, Dale, thank you so much for your time today. And families, if you want more information, connect with Dale. She has been so helpful and beneficial in helping me as an adult, using the same information to be able to help me feel better. And I've seen the testimonies of what is happening in the kids' lives and the transformation that are happening in families. So check her out and see if she can help you too. So you all have a great day. We'll stay in touch. Okay.